policial, numa tentativa desesperada de evitar que o cara botasse fogo, deu um tiro de taser no maluco. Você já pegou, né? Já peguei. Você tá ligado que eletricidade faz bagulha, né? Então, aí o cara pegou fogo, tá ligado? E aí o cara pegou fogo mesmo, só que, felizmente, beleza. Como a polícia tava lá, os caras já jogaram cobertor em cima do cara, ele teve um monte de queimadura, mas não chegou a morrer como ele queria. Mas agora é foda, né? Pra evitar que você pegue fogo, irmão, eu vou tacar fogo em você. É a lógica da galera da conservadora do Brasil, sabe assim? Não, pra evitar que aconteça violência, vamos botar violência, entendeu? Assim, não é... Olho de por dentro, todo mundo segue banela, pô, não cega, assim. Dois policiais, no caso, tivessem sido talizados por causa de inalar fumaça, e era fumaça de gente, né? Deve ser um pouquinho mais tóxico, tá ligado? É complicado, porque ainda o cara queria se suicidar, então o cara deve ter inalado um monte de tarja preta também, deve ter sido... isso aí a fita, quase morreu o cara, coitado. O que você faz? O que você faz? O que você faz nessa hora? Eu sei o que você faz, mano, só porque eu dado...
And this got them talking about history, sociology, political theory, even military tactics. The man didn't even play the game, but he was willing to be there with his son when he could and talk to him about the things his son cared about, not dismissing something that was meaningful to the kid as just a game. And again, recently, James heard the story of a teacher who plays GTA 4 with his 3-year-old. Now, hang on, they don't go mugging people or sticking up citizens. Instead, he drives around the world, obeying the traffic laws, and asks his son to call out when he sees cars of a certain color. It's his way of teaching his son colors, and now even some of the makes of the cars. So we can't throw out any game as simply and inherently bad for kids. A lot of the way a game, TV show, or any media affects a child is dependent on guidance they're given, and the context they watch it in. So how can parents guide their kid, make them playing a positive experience to the player? So you're gonna have to take a deep breath and just let them grind through it, even if you don't totally understand what they're doing. And not understanding is totally okay. You've got to be very careful not to be pestering, not to interrupt their flow when asking questions. Of course, asking questions is good. It gives them a chance to practice communicating about something they're highly knowledgeable about and love. But just choose your moments. You know how obnoxious it is to watch your favorite TV show next to somebody who makes you pause it every 2 minutes to explain what's going on? It's even more irritating when you're trying to play a game, so converse with care. Beyond that, it's going to take a little bit of investment from you. You might have to read a little on the game your child is playing. Get to know the basics from videos on the internet so you can follow along. Maybe even read things or watch things in parallel. Has your kid been playing a World War II game? Maybe you could suggest watching Band of Brothers together. I'm assuming your kid is like 15 or something in that example. Please don't go showing that to your 7-year-old. But perhaps one of the most effective things you can do is research. And more than that, teach your kid to research. I don't care if it's Pokemon or League of Legends or World of Warcraft. Have somebody sitting next to you on the tab or laptop looking at things for you while you're playing is awesome. You can be the...
Reparou como um domínio transforma tudo em negócio?
Que tal biscoitosdotio.com?
Melhor, biscoitosdopug.com. Megasucos.com.
E o negócio dele?
Ele precisa de um domínio na Guteri. Urgente.
Amanhã.
Gire seu domínio na Guteri. Anundo por apenas R$199 no primeiro ano.
And good. Thus, often kids' game production became about lowering production costs, rather than raising quality. In fact, this is a big part of why licensed titles in our industry have such a bad rap today. Luckily, this has been changing. Now that many people who grew up with games in their homes when they were kids are having kids of their own, games for children can no longer sell on box art and ignorance alone. Today, these games have to better cater to their audience, and that's one of the most difficult things when creating games for kids. You see, we often mentally lump ages 14 and up as one group when creating games. Most of the games you play probably fall into this category. People in this range may fall into many different demographics or target audiences, and they may have vastly different underlying things which appeal to them, but age specifically isn't usually considered a huge differentiator beyond 14. In fact, it's only been in the last few years that we started creating games specifically for the 25 and up audience, because most of the time, a great game is equal appealing if you're 14 or 45. One of the keys to the success of things like Angry Birds, or even Skylanders. Any child can play them just by mashing buttons or tapping on the screen, but a child who thinks through the mechanics and understands the game is rewarded for doing so, for thinking more deeply. Additionally, you have to be more aware of the different ways human beings learn when building games for kids. We touched on this a little in one of the episodes about how to build a good tutorial, and in fact we could, and probably should, dedicate a whole episode to the theories around different types of learning, because only in your mechanics, but in every aspect of your game. We seem to have this societal bias that children can only handle pablum, banal or puerile things, and that's absolutely false. Everything from SpongeBob to WALL-E has shown us that children can appreciate challenging ideas and humor. The best children's books we have don't shy away from leaving the child with something to think about, so the games we make for them should take up this mantle as well. Here, James has only one piece of advice. It's what works for him. Perhaps it's just what helps put him in the right headspace and it won't make sense to anybody else. But when James works on experiences for children, and in fact in general when dealing with younger people, he simply thinks of them as adults with a lot less experience. If you can build that ramp that goes from things that children already understand, the concept you want to explore them, about a month ago, we did an episode on gamification. In that episode, you may recall that I invited people working in certain fields, including education, to write to us if they wanted to hear James' ideas for how to apply gamification to their work in greater detail. And indeed, they did. A lot of teachers watching the show, apparently. The response was overwhelming. Teachers wrote in from all over the world. In fact, so many of you wrote in that we haven't yet been able to answer all the emails, for which I apologize. Because the response was so huge, and it'll be a while before we can finish replying to all of you, we decided to just go ahead and do an episode on the topic of gamifying education. Grades to levels as you go. Lee Sheldon did a basic version of this for his class at Indiana University, and found it to be highly effective. The only thing I felt that he could have done more was to give the kids skills as they leveled. Without them, the different grading was just an arbitrary reward system that didn't provide real value to the students, and didn't highlight the inherent value of education. If you were instead to give students pickable powers every level, and set up class-wide achievements, you could teach lessons within the game system itself. Say you set up class-wide achievements, such as, if one student gets 25,000 experience, the whole class gets a free bonus 100 XP. Or, say 5 students get to 15,000 experience, the whole class gets bonus points. Or maybe field trip or something. What do you prefer? This sort of reward system, you encourage the whole class to be rooting for one another, and you encourage the best students to help out their classmates. You encourage your students to function with camaraderie and as a team. The best kids can't get the maximum possible score unless they help their peers pull out their grades. And at the same time, the kids who are struggling, rather than resenting their classmates who are doing well, are cheering them on because other kids succeeding is to help their own grade. Next, let's talk about agency. One of the biggest hurdles to overcome in education is dealing with kids who have no sense of agency over their lives. Now, what do I mean by students having a sense of agency? Simply the idea that they feel they control their own destiny, that the choices matter. Lack of agency can manifest itself in numerous ways. Students feeling like they don't have an option to go to college, perceiving that pregnancy is something that just happens, or students feeling like they simply have no power over the life path and choices that their parents make for them. Without agency, it's almost impossible to feel motivated. Rather than making decisions for the future, people without a sense of agency simply stumble through life day to day without any long-term goals. But a sense of agency isn't a binary thing. It's a scale. The more agency you have day to teach everything that kids need to know. We need kids to remain engaged and continue to learn voluntarily once they leave the classroom. In the long run, there are a lot of ways we can use games to do this, but for now, I'll just assume that we're looking for a solution that's implementable right away and has low to zero cost. Now, if you're really ambitious and willing to put in the time, a homemade alternate reality game, or ARG, is the way to go for students in middle school or up. Look up I Love Bees or Year Zero to see the sort of thing I'm talking about. Use the information you want them to learn as the pieces that unlock the next section of the game. There's sort of this information they're bound to stumble upon and learn about lots of other tangentially related topics. Check out deathball.net/notprawn for a good example of a more primitive way to do this. I'll put the link down below. Anyway, to do this well, you must integrate it into the classroom and get everyone excited about progressing. The key here is to create mystery and make schooling more magical and wonderful by not really being schooling, but being part of something much larger. You can even pretend to know about it, or to be on their side, trying to work out a specific part of the puzzle yourself. Yeah, your students will know, but you don't want to shatter the fantasy of the other world. ARDs are
E aí, pá, agora eu tô vendendo artesanato. Eu tô com a minha maquininha aqui que é da rede, papá. Por quê? Assim eu aceito todo tipo de cartão. Todo sério maninho.
Dinheiro para 300. Vai colocar o seu nome. Já nós vamos aqui em definições. YouTube. Aqui é. Para configurar, nós vamos aqui em definições. Depois 80. Vai dar 380. Se a sua for menor, não tenta roubar. Se a sua der 400, você vai colocar 350. Se der 480, coloca 380. E vem aqui, aplicar. Agora apenas assistir ao vivo vai vir aqui. Então, tirar ao vivo, vai colocar YouTube, YouTube Game e vídeos do evento. No caso, não queira dar uma de bom aqui. Coloca
students come back the next day with a series of links that got them from one topic to the other. It's easiest to do this with Wikipedia, but the game still works with most any set of websites. Any student who does the exercise gets some experience, assuming you're using the grading system we talked about, but the winner is the student who can make the connection in the fewest number of links, and they get some additional bonus. Maybe their homework that day is worth an additional 10% experience, or they get a reward of 50 extra points, or they get to choose a question on the next quiz that everybody in the class will get full credit for automatically. To wildlife of Japan, to butterfly, to monarch butterfly. Beat that. See you next week.